Hello. It's a lovely winter February day here in Ontario, Canada, in Hamilton. We've been dumped on quite a bit, but it's been a nice steady gentle dumping. It's been worse in other places like Toronto and more rural spots, but we're getting major snow. We haven't really had that yet this winter, so it was late coming, but now we're really getting it. But it's pretty good so far. It feels like a traditional, familiar winter. And so I've come outside when the sun shines. When you get a sunny winter day, you gotta go outside. You gotta go outside. The gray days, sure, you can cuddle up to a fire or to your favorite person or whatever, have a hot chocolate, but the sunny days, you gotta take advantage of those. See all the wonders. And so that's what I did. I came out, and also to make some videos. And so I came to this park. There's a playground. Hope the camera shut off there. There's a playground behind me. And capture it. So what I did was I followed this trail, this track, and there were footprints from kids from when school was in during the week. And I followed the tracks. I usually don't follow other people's tracks. But I knew they were kids. So I followed it. And they led me right to this spot where they clearly just plopped down like I'm doing right now. So I've plopped down in the snow. And I got my coffee sitting in the snow here. We'll call this the igloo coffee principle. Keeps it nice and insulated. A little bit of shade, not that I need shade, but just for the aesthetics. And occasionally the wind comes along and blows a little bit of snow, so I get a little snow sparkle on me every once in a while. And until I turned the camera on, I was sitting here in stillness. You gotta get the right spot. This is the great thing about snow, is if you just shuffle around a bit, you mold the perfect spot for yourself. I don't know, perfect, but you can get it quite comfy. There, that feels good. So, yeah, I was sitting here in stillness, and that topic's come up a lot, so I think I want to talk about it. I've talked to a lot of people that are struggling in their own lives, and often this comes up. So what I want to talk about, really, even more than stillness, that's more the way. But something that's really at the core for all of us, no matter what we're going through in our life, in our emotional growth, in our journey, and in our day-to-day, in our spiritual growth, all of it, just life, in our journey. Self-love, you can't get around it. And it really has to be truly, it's really going to come down to a choice. And so when we swing a lot, when we have, one day we can be at tune with everything, and the next day, for the tiniest thing or no reason at all, we can swing the other way. It just shows there's still some work to be done there for all of us. And then we have others that go in long stages. They'll come up for a little bit, and they'll see the magic in themselves and in the world, and then they go back to old habits, and they find even intensify, even feeling worse than they did before. And the common theme that always comes up is, especially with the extremes where people are in long states of depression or whatever it is they're going through, the common thing they always say, because when that comes across, of course, what they'll hear a lot is, go meditate, go be still, clear the mind, just marinate in yourself. And they'll avoid that. They don't want to be by themselves. They don't want to be alone. So they'll say, how do I be happy? But how do I love myself but I don't want to be alone. Well, that's the thing. You can't keep running from it. Well, you can keep running from it, but inevitably it just keeps bringing us back to the same place. When we hear people say that when you're stressed and whatnot, do things that quiet the mind or return to stillness or meditation or any of those things, they're great tools to help. But they're much actually more than that. They can be much more than that. Because what it really is locating yourself. There's a reason we keep avoiding stillness and the quieting of the mind, because that's what we're running from. We're running from ourselves. And so that's why a lot of people fill their lives with activities and other people, or seek all their enjoyments through other relationships and need other people to fill the space. It's a very common human theme. And we all do it to an extent. But again, it's really just running away from the truth, running away from what you're really here to do, and that is to experience what it's like to be you. You're the only one of this particular expression. There's only one you. You're a precious gift. Your only mission really here is to explore that and hopefully embrace that and celebrate that and shine your light from that place of self-love. But to do that, you have to sit in stillness with yourself. And if you keep avoiding it, you're going to keep suffering. There's no right or wrong. You'll suffer as long as you need to. But when you're finished suffering, you'll want peace. And peace is found in stillness. And self-love, the way to love yourself, is to first locate yourself. Before you can love yourself, it really helps to locate yourself. So how do we locate ourselves? Well, if you sit still and clear your mind as best as you can, thoughts will come occasionally, but just try to quiet them down so it's pretty still. And then if they come, just let them come and let them go. Don't entertain them. Just kind of like, okay, I hear what you're saying. Bye-bye. Just let it go. But really clear them out as much as possible. And whatever that works for you, or stare at a candle flame, or stare at shadows in the snow, whatever works for you. Stare off in the patterns on the wall. But clear your mind to the point where you're not thinking anything, even if it's focusing just on your breathing. And then just, as long as you can, be in that moment. Well, if we're our minds and you're not thinking in that moment, then you cease to exist. Have you ceased to exist? No. You'll still find you're aware. You're aware you're breathing. You're aware you're there. You might even get into a wonderful, peaceful state. But either way, no matter what happens, if the thoughts aren't there but you're still aware, then you've located yourself, so you're not the mind. So that's you, not the mind. The mind is not you. Because even when the mind stops, what's still there? Awareness. That's you. So self-love, it helps to first locate yourself, because if you're getting trapped in the mind that you're this character, that you're this thing, and all the details, where you're just spinning in the details, and they're illusions, they're not real. You're not your character. And you're not your body. So when we're locating ourselves, you're also not your body. Remember that. Your body has changed a million times over since you were an infant. You used to be an infant. Physically, how can that be you anymore? Besides the obvious exterior changes and size changes and everything else, the cells itself, we know, science shows us that they've replaced themselves a million times over already. So nothing that's in you, it's just copies of copies, and well, not just copies, they've actually changed, expanded, but they're just different versions. But it's not you. Your body's never the same. It just keeps changing completely. So something's still there. If the body keeps changing but you're still you, then you're definitely not the body. So that leads you, okay, personality in the mind. But when we're still, and we're not in our personalities and we're not in our minds, we're still aware. That's you. You've located yourself. Spend as much time with yourself, because by avoiding it, you're just going to spin back up in the mind again and keep saying, well, why isn't it working? Well, you know why you're having trouble. Because you're running from what you really want, is to be happy and to truly love yourself and to give yourself a break and truly get out and live life and do the things you want to do. So that's what this video is really about, is, you know, when you're ready, you'll stop running from yourself and you'll make the choice. It has to come with a choice to love yourself. And the first baby step in that choice, although it seems like a huge hurdle for a lot of people, and that is be still with yourself. Locate yourself and just marinate in yourself. Do that as much as possible. From there, you're already in it now. You're already on the road to true self-love, and you'll find you'll start treating yourself to things and going out and flopping in the snow just to make yourself feel better, or jump on a bed, or paint, or sing, or write, or whatever it is. Those things will come naturally, but first you got to really make the choice, because otherwise, if you don't really make the choice, you'll do those things occasionally, but not very consistently. And you'll continue to spin in the mind, and you'll continue to suffer, and things will seem worse, and more of a battle begins. And it's not really a battle between your mind and your heart. Not really. It's really a battle between your mind and your mind. It's your mind that's convinced itself it's the entity, and it's in the corner, and it's freaking out, and it's arguing with itself, and it's creating the problems to begin with, and then it's trying to solve it. But it can't, because the problems don't exist. We live in abundance. The greatest example of that is how our mind thinks there's always problems, and they're not real. And the reason they're not real is, look at the planet. We are in paradise here on planet Ocean. We have all the food, space, medicine, magic, anything we could ever want is here. There's enough for everybody. And yet still in human history, we've created this world of lack and of pain and of competition where none is needed. So why are we doing that? Why are we ignoring what we are and where we are? Why are we, where are all these problems coming up if we live in a place with no problems, and these wonderful shells that heal themselves, and we just got to let them do what they do, and everything we need is here for the most amazing experience. So why do we still feel lack? Why do we create problems? Where are these problems coming from? They're coming from us. They don't exist. We created them. If we just rolled with it, we'd all be prosperous here. Everything we need is here. So the only problem is that we're creating them. So it's the same thing in the mind. The world is just an expression of what we all go through individually and collectively. This is all an expression of that. The illusion of lack. Getting trapped in thought and belief in the mind. Now the mind is not the enemy. A lot of people, when they hear others speak of quieting the mind, you know, they'll jump to the conclusion, almost protecting the mind, saying, well, you can't just cut out the mind. No one's saying cut out the mind. We all know you need to use your mind, even when you're in stillness and quiet for, you know, at some point you got to get up and do something, and the mind's there. And that's when the mind is fantastic, when it's a tool, because that's all it is. The mind is just a tool. And when we're more centered in ourselves, when we've located ourselves and we're loving ourselves, and we're coming from that pulled back state of not needing anything from anybody or anything, then we can more easily step into the world, and the mind no longer needs to solve all these problems. It just kind of goes along with what the heart space or the true self is directing at this point. It tries to take on the responsibility, and it freaks out under the responsibility, because the mind truly knows it's not the entity and it can't solve all these things. So really you're not making the mind the enemy. You're letting it be what it was meant to do, and so it can relax, because it can feel it's being guided, and it will more go along and assist and facilitate with the soul, as opposed to seemingly, or as it believes, taking over and trying to fix the problems with life when there are no problems. There are no problems. We create them. There's challenges, but there's no problems. Every challenge is something to learn. Every challenge has a solution. But we see in our lives and in the world, most of the problems don't even need to exist. They only exist because we created them in the first place. So, it's quite a ride, this whole thing. But again, if you want to be happy, it starts with the choice to be happy. And to do that, you have to love yourself. So you want to be happy, you got to love yourself completely and make that your first and foremost mission. Not just say it, not just sometimes, but make it your mission. To love yourself and discover yourself and explore yourself. And the way to do that most effectively and consistently is by returning to yourself in stillness and clearing out the thoughts as much as possible, because you're going to be thinking the rest of the time anyway, so it's not like you're going to have a shortage of thoughts. You're just clearing some space to locate yourself. And that in itself, as I said, is also a very challenging act for some, but it's also a great act of self-love. So just by doing it and then doing it more consistently and not running from it, things will change. It just gets better. The more you love yourself, just everything becomes better. Everything. It's true. Everything. So, choose to be happy. Do that by loving yourself. Best way to love yourself, first locate yourself and marinate in yourself. And everything else will come from that. Love you.